Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something I am super excited about, the 5 a.m. secret. We're going to be exploring this incredibly powerful, actionable framework that can literally transform your life. And we're grounding all of this in the absolutely wild true story of a guy who did exactly that, armed with, honestly, nothing but a cheap alarm clock and just pure willpower. We're going to break down his exact system, look at how the math of time actually works in your favor, and figure out how you can start applying this tomorrow morning.
So let's start with Thomas, just to really understand what's at stake here. Thomas was a 32-year-old night security guard. Picture this. He's living in this tiny one-room apartment, broken fan, sleeping on a mattress on the floor under a flickering light bulb. The whole setup. Every single evening at 8 p.m., he goes to work, and every morning at 6 a.m., completely exhausted, he goes home to sleep. He was literally asleep when the world worked and awake when the world slept. His salary was barely keeping him afloat, but, worse than the money was just this crushing feeling of being completely trapped. As he'd walk home in the dawn light, he'd look through people's windows and just watch the rest of the world waking up to live their dreams. Families eating breakfast, folks heading off to their office jobs. He worked hard, walking 4 miles a night on patrol, but it was hard work in a life that was But then, the turning point hit on a freezing cold Tuesday morning. Thomas got one of those urgent calls you never want to get. His mother had collapsed. He rushed 3 hours to her village clinic where the doctor told him she had just fainted from extreme stress and total exhaustion. And, while holding his hand with barely a whisper, she actually begged him not to waste his life the way she felt she had wasted hers. Standing outside that clinic in the quiet dark at 5 a.m., feeling just completely helpless and angry at his whole situation, Thomas made this desperate, unwavering promise to find a way out. And it was that specific promise that led to a totally chance encounter that would literally change everything.
Okay, moving into section 1, the 5 a.m. secret, a chance encounter on the 6 a.m. bus. So it was actually on that very early bus ride back to town that Thomas noticed something kind of odd. Sitting right across from him was this well-dressed, clearly wealthy local businessman named Mr. Chun, just peacefully reading a book. Gathering up his courage, Thomas finally asked him why a highly successful guy was up and on a public bus at the crack of dawn. Mr. Chun took one look at Thomas's exhausted face, kind of figured out his backward schedule, and decided to let him in on this foundational secret to building a life of purpose. He explained that the secret isn't just about working harder, right? It's about when you do the work. Out of a standard 24-hour day, there is this tiny, specific 2-hour slice, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Mr. Chun called these the magic hours. It's this beautiful, quiet, completely uninterrupted window. Now let's do the math on this real quick, because this is where it gets crazy. Dedicating just 2 hours a morning to yourself might not seem like a huge deal on day one, but watch how it compounds. That's 14 hours a week, which turns into 60 hours a month. And over the course of just a single year, that one tiny daily habit snowballs into a massive 730 hours. Just let that number sink in for a second. 730 hours purely 100% dedicated to your own advancement and growth.
So the absolute kicker here is what those 730 hours actually look like in the real world. If you take those hours and divide them up into standard 8-hour workdays, it equals 91 full workdays. Meaning waking up at 5 a.m. essentially hands you 3 extra months of productive time every single year. 3 entire months that the rest of the world is literally just spending asleep in bed. Imagine the unbelievable advantage you build when you get a bonus 3 months a year to focus entirely on yourself.
Which brings us to section 2, the 2-hour system, building your foundation. Now, to actually harness those 3 extra months, Mr. Chun didn't just say, hey, wake up early. He told Thomas to imagine his life as a house that was dark and falling apart, basically because he was too busy just trying to survive to ever work on the foundation. These morning hours, they were going to become that foundation, using a strict, non-negotiable 2-hour blueprint. So step 1 is hour 1, from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. This time is strictly to build skills. You spend this hour learning something that actively changes your financial situation. Maybe it's a new language, a trade, or knocking out some free online courses. But absolutely no TV, no scrolling on your phone. Then, step 2 is hour 2, from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. This is where you build your body and your mind. You exercise, you go for a walk, you stretch, and you sit down and plan out your day. As Mr. Chun warned him, your body is your vehicle, and if it breaks down, well, you've got absolutely nothing. To make this 2-hour system actually stick, Mr. Chun laid out 3 absolute golden rules you have got to follow. Rule number 1, Wake at 5 a.m. every single day. No negotiating with yourself. No, oh, just today I'll skip it. And definitely no weekends off. Rule number 2, you must be asleep by 9 p.m. You simply cannot cheat sleep and expect to succeed. Your body needs rest. But the trick is you control exactly when you get that rest. And rule number 3, understand going in that the first week is going to be absolute torture. Your body is going to hate it, but you just have to push through. Because after 21 days, it starts to feel normal, and after 90 days, it just becomes who you are. All right, Section 3, the 90-day transformation, the price of success. So Thomas goes all in. He accepts the challenge, completely flipping his sleep schedule to wake up in those quiet early hours. And yeah, day 1 was pure pain and exhaustion. He's dragging himself awake, sitting in the dark at this tiny table, squinting at free Excel and accounting tutorials on YouTube while his eyes are practically burning. But check this out. By day 20, a massive shift happened. He actually woke up 2 minutes before his alarm even went off. His body had adapted, and those confusing Excel tutorials, they actually started making sense. By month 2, he'd finished 3 online certificates, dropped some weight from his daily walks, and his confidence was just through the roof. And then came the massive payoff. On day 87, using the exact skills he taught himself at 5 a.m., he built this complex inventory spreadsheet for his warehouse. His bosses were so blown away that they offered him a daytime office job on the spot and literally doubled his salary. Fast forward just 1 year later, and that hopeless, exhausted night guard barely surviving in a tiny room? Completely gone. In his place was the company's brand new lead accountant, healthy, sharp, and finally making enough to provide his mom with the medical care she so desperately needed. I mean, he literally rewrote the entire script of his life. And that leads us to Section 4, your morning challenge, winning the morning to win the day. Okay, now we're shifting the spotlight directly onto you, because here is the wild thing. The exact same internet, the exact same free education, and the exact same opportunities that Thomas leveraged are sitting right in front of you right now. Remember, Thomas didn't have a degree, he had 0 connections and no money. All he had was the sheer discipline to wake up and build. The gap between where you are right now and where you want to be, it's not about luck. It's about how you choose to use the time when everyone else is sleeping. So I'm throwing down a challenge. Commit to this exact 3-step framework starting tonight. First, set your alarm for exactly 5 a.m. and put your phone all the way across the room so you physically have to get out of bed to turn it off. Second, pick just one single skill to build during that first hour for the next 90 days. Keep it simple. And third, relentlessly protect that 9 p.m. bedtime. Cut the Netflix, put the phone away. Sleep is not the enemy here, but wasted evenings definitely are. And just remember why this strategy actually works so beautifully. Between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., the world is perfectly quiet. You aren't getting pinged with notifications, there are no last-minute meetings, no one is demanding your attention. Your willpower is at its absolute peak for the day, and your mind is completely fresh. It's this exact environment that gives you the space to do the actual, hard, focused work that fundamentally shifts the trajectory of your life. You know what's really cool? Even a year later, long after he got the promotion and moved into a really nice apartment, Thomas kept waking up at 5 a.m. And when his coworkers inevitably asked him, "Hey, why are you still doing this now that you're successful?" Thomas perfectly nailed the mindset with this incredibly profound thought. He said, "Success is not a destination. It is a daily practice." Waking up early wasn't just some temporary hack to get a better job. It had quite literally become his way of life. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this one final thought. Your future self is waiting for you right now, just on the other side of that alarm clock. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm starts blaring in the pitch dark, you have a very real choice to make. Are you going to hit snooze and find yourself wondering 5 years from now why absolutely nothing has changed? Or will you ask yourself, what will you choose to build tomorrow at 5 a.m.?